Greetings and a warm welcome to the Governance and Compliance Audit Learning session. Today we are going to study the qualification requirements for governance and compliance auditors in Kenya. And candidates' qualification requirements for governance and compliance auditors in Kenya has various dimensions, which combines academic background, professional certifications, practical experience, and adherence to ethical standards. And these requirements often depend on the specific type of entity being audited. For example, you may have a public companies, and vis-a-vis the private companies, you may have listed companies and unlisted companies. So the requirements for governance and compliance auditors depends on the specific type of entity. The requirements for listed companies may be different for the unlisted companies. It may also depend on the specific nature of the compliance audit. For example, you may have the general legal compliance, we may have the data protection, financial audits, IT audits, and so on. So in this lesson, we are going to break down the typical qualification requirements for governance and compliance auditors. We begin with the qualifications for the governance auditors. What are the qualifications for auditors? What are the qualifications for governance auditors? Let's begin with governance auditors, then we'll proceed to compliance auditors, then we'll also look at the other aspects like data protection, compliance auditors, and so on. So we begin with the qualification requirements for governance auditors. Now, candidates, for governance audits, particularly the publicly listed companies in Kenya, the key professional body is the Institute of Certified Secretaries. For listed companies, candidates in Kenya, the key professional body is the Institute of Certified Secretaries. So what are the professional qualifications for governance auditors? Professional. Let's first analyze the professional qualification. And mandatory professional qualification is certified public secretaries. So here we have certified public secretaries of Kenya. This is the professional requirement. For one to conduct governance audits, one must be a certified public secretary of Kenya. You understand? So this is the primary and often mandatory professional qualification. And a person must be a registered and practicing certified public secretary in good standing with the Institute of Certified Secretaries. And the CPSK designation signifies expertise in corporate law, in corporate secretarial practice, in governance, and also administration. So that's the first professional qualification. This is number one. Number two, there is what we call accreditation by ICS, by Institute of Certified Secretaries. Accreditation by the Institute of Certified Secretaries. Now, for one to conduct governance audit, one must be accredited. One must be an accredited governance auditor. The Capital Markets Authority Code of Corporate Governance practices for issuers of securities to the public explicitly states, the CMA code explicitly states that governance audits for listed companies must be conducted by a qualified and accredited governance auditor. And the ICS is the body responsible for this accreditation. And this typically involves holding the CPSK qualification. It also means undergoing specific training programs on governance auditing offered or recognized by the Institute of Certified Secretaries. It may also involve passing an accreditation examination or meeting a minimum threshold of practical experience in governance roles or related fields. It may require also maintaining continuous professional development requirements, the CPD. You understand? So for you want to be accredited candidates by the Institute of Certified Secretaries to enable such a person carry out governance audits, particularly for the listed companies. We're saying here that one, first of all, must be accredited by the Institute of Certified Secretaries. And the Institute of Certified Secretaries is the responsible body for this accreditation. And the accreditation involves, first of all, being or holding the CPSK qualification. That means that one must have undergone professional examinations to attain this designation. And this subject, governance and compliance audit, is one of the papers that is examinable under the CS qualification. So that's the first thing. For you to be accredited, you must be a CS or K. That's the first thing. Then this accreditation may also involve undergoing specific training programs on governance auditing offered or recognized by the institute. One may also be required to pass an accreditation examination or meet minimum threshold of practical experience in governance roles, and also maintaining continuous professional development requirements and so on. So accreditation is required for one to carry out governance audits. Then the third point is experience. Experience. Significant practical experience in corporate governance, in corporate secretarial work, in legal practice, or general auditing is essential for one to carry out governance audits. It's essential, candidates. And this experience should provide a deep understanding of board dynamics, regulatory requirements, risk management, and also ethical framework. So experience is required for one to become a governance auditor. Experience in corporate law, experience in boardroom dynamics, and so on. Independence. Now, the auditor, the governance auditor, must demonstrate independence from the organization being audited to ensure objectivity and avoid conflict of interest. 5. Professional indemnity, PI insurance, professional indemnity insurance. Now, often candidates, professional indemnity insurance is mandatory. It's a mandatory requirement for practicing auditors to cover potential liabilities arising from negligence. So, candidates, these are some of the qualification requirements for governance auditors. We have professional qualification, number 1, accreditation by ICS. Number 3, experience. Number 4, independence. Number 5, we have PI insurance. Now let's analyze the qualification requirements for compliance auditors. For compliance auditors. For auditors. What are the qualification requirements for compliance auditors? Now, at the beginning, you recall, candidates, I did mention that the qualification requirements for governance and compliance auditors in Kenya are multifaceted, combining academic background, professional certifications, practical experience, and also adherence to ethical standards, and so on. And these requirements often depend on the specific type of entity being audited. We have analyzed the qualification requirements for governance auditors. We're moving to the qualification requirements for compliance auditors. Now, compliance auditing is broader and can be performed by various professionals depending on the area of compliance. For example, we may have the legal compliance auditor. Compliance auditing, candidates have said, is very broad. One such area is legal compliance. Now, the qualification requirements for legal compliance auditor, number 1 is that one must be an advocate of the High Court of Kenya. One of advocate of the High Court of Kenya. That's number 1. For comprehensive legal compliance audits, for example, those required by Mwongozo for state corporations, or in-depth reviews of contractual and statutory compliance, the auditor must typically be a practicing advocate in good standing with the Law Society of Kenya. That is number 1, an advocate of the High Court of Kenya. The second qualification requirement for compliance auditing is experience. This means extensive experience in corporate law, in regulatory compliance, in commercial law, and potentially litigation to effectively interpret legal requirements and assess compliance risks. Legal compliance auditing may also require specialized training. Specialized training may be required. This is certification or training in legal audit methodologies, which is highly advantageous. For example, courses offered by the Kenya School of Law or other legal training providers. So that's one example of legal compliance auditing. Compliance auditing. One is legal compliance. Number 2, we have the data protection compliance auditor. Data auditor. What are the qualification requirements for data protection compliance auditor? This one is for legal compliance auditor. So we have data protection compliance auditor. Remember, we said that compliance auditing is broad. Compliance auditing is quite broad and it has various areas. One is legal compliance, but 2 is data protection compliance. So what are the qualification requirements for data protection compliance auditor? ODPC by the commission. Okay, there has to be accreditation by the commission. This is the Office of Data Protection Commission. You understand? With the operationalization of Data Protection Act candidates and the data protection regulations, the Office of Data Protection Commission. The Office of Data Protection Commissioner is now responsible for accrediting data protection auditors. And this accreditation will be a key requirement for conducting official data protection compliance audits. You understand? Yes, accreditation by the Office of Data Protection Commission. Then you have relevant certifications. Relevant certifications. Okay? Certifications such as the Certified Information Privacy Professional, the CIPP, e.g. CIPP. The CIPP stands for Certified Information Privacy Profession. That's an example of a certification. You may have also CISA, Certified Information Systems Auditor for IT controls relating to data protection. Another certification is Certified Data Protection Officer. So those are relevant certifications for data protection compliance auditor. Then the third qualification requirement is experience. This means demonstrated experience in data privacy laws, information security, and IT auditing. So these are the three qualification requirements for data protection compliance auditor. Point or area is financial compliance auditor. Financial auditor. What are the qualification requirements for the financial compliance auditor? This could be a statutory auditor or regulatory auditor. For financial compliance auditor candidates, the first qualification is a professional qualification, which is the Certified Public Accountants of Kenya. So the first qualification is CPAK. For financial compliance auditing or the statutory audits, CPAK is the professional requirement. For compliance aspects related to financial reporting, tax laws, and anti-money laundering, the auditor must be registered and practicing CPA in good standing with the Institute of Certified Public Accountants of Kenya. Then you have relevant designations. The second qualification requirement is relevant designations. These are other international accounting qualifications like ACCA, like CA, that are recognized by ISPAC, e.g. ACCA. Then 3, of course, we have experience. Experience. This is expertise in financial auditing, taxation, and relevant regulatory framework. For example, the Banking Act, the Capital Markets Act, Public Finance Management Act, and so on. So these are 3 qualification requirements for financial compliance auditing. 4, we can pick another area in compliance auditing, which is occupational safety and health auditor. Occupational safety and health auditor is one area in compliance auditing. Occupational safety and health auditor. Now the requirement here is that one has to be registered safety and health advisor, because under the Occupational Safety and Health Act, mandatory annual safety and health audits must be conducted by professionals registered with the Directorate of Occupational Safety and Health Services. You understand? So there are other compliance areas like the IT compliance auditor, where one has to have certifications like the Certified Information System Auditor, certified in risk and information systems control, certification in governance of enterprise IT, and so on. So that's it, candidates. We have been discussing the qualification requirements for governance auditors, then we've done for compliance auditors, but we also have general qualities applicable to both governance and compliance auditors. We have general qualities. We have general qualities for both governance auditors and compliance auditors. Regardless of the specific area, all effective governance and compliance auditors should possess a strong understanding of relevant laws and regulations. Number one, strong understanding relevant laws and regulations. Regardless of whether you are a governance auditor or compliance auditor, you are required to have strong understanding of relevant laws and regulations, comprehensive knowledge of the legal and regulatory landscape applicable to the audited entities, industry, and operations in Kenya. Another general quality is having audit methodology skills. Audit methodology skills. This is the proficiency in audit planning, in risk assessment, evidence gathering, documentation, and reporting. Those are some of the key areas in an audit. One must have audit methodological skills. Professional skepticism is yet another general quality that applies to both governance and compliance auditors. Professional skepticism refers to having a questioning mind and critical assessment of audit evidence. You don't just take everything that the information you are granted, you don't take it as true at face value. No, you have to have a questioning attitude, a questioning mind. Professional skepticism. 4. And objectivity. Independence and objectivity is a general quality that applies to both governance and compliance auditors. This means having an unbiased approach, free from conflicts of interest. Number 5 is professional judgment. Professional judgment. This is the ability to make sound decisions based on experience, knowledge, and standards. 6. Communication skills. This is the ability to analyze complex information, the ability to identify patterns, and also draw logical conclusions. 7. Integrity and ethics. integrity, and ethics. This is adherence to a strict code of professional ethics, upholding principles of honesty, confidentiality, and due care. 8. CPD. CPD stands for Continuous Professional Development. That means commitment to ongoing learning, to stay updated with changes in laws, regulations, and best practices. So these are 8 general qualities for governance auditors and compliance auditors. And that effectively brings this lesson to an end. The lesson has been on qualification requirements for governance auditors and compliance auditors. We began by stating that the qualification requirements for governance and compliance auditors in Kenya have varying dimensions, combining academic background, professional certifications, practical experience, adherence to ethical standards, and so on. And these requirements often depend on the specific type of entity that is being audited. The entity could be listed, it could be unlisted, it could be a private entity or a public entity. So we began by analyzing the qualification requirements for governance auditors. And the first requirement is professional qualification. For one to conduct governance audits, one must be a certified public secretary of Kenya. This is a professional qualification. Then one has to be accredited by the Institute of Certified Secretaries. There is also experience that is required. One ought to be independent, and one also ought to be insured. Professional indemnity insurance. There is also the qualification requirements for compliance auditors. Now, for compliance auditing candidates, compliance auditing, we did mention that there are various areas in compliance auditing. We stated that compliance auditing is broader than governance auditing, and it may be legal or compliance auditing. So we analyzed the qualification requirements for legal compliance auditors. One is that one has to be an advocate of the High Court of Kenya. There is also experience and specialized training. Legal compliance auditing. Specialized training. Then we have the second category of compliance auditors, which is a data protection compliance auditor. The first qualification is accreditation by the Office of Data Protection Commissioner. Number 2, relevant certifications. Number 3, experience, and the third one is financial compliance auditor. For one to qualify to carry out financial audits, one must be a certified public accountant of Kenya. One must have relevant designations like ACCA. There is also experience, and so on. Then we've finally analyzed the general qualities that applies both to the governance auditors and compliance auditors. Number 1 is having a strong understanding of relevant laws and regulations. Number 2, being conversant with audit methodology skills, proficiency in audit planning, risk assessment, evidence gathering, documentation, and reporting. Then there is professional skepticism, having a questioning mind. Then independence and objectivity, that's number 4. Number 5, professional judgment. Number 6, communication skills. Number 7, integrity. Then number 8 is continuous professional development. So candidates, the qualifications for governance and compliance auditors in Kenya are tailored to the specific nature of the audit, with professional accreditation and relevant legal and accounting qualifications being paramount. In all these categories of auditing, your experience is common. One must have experience. So here you can see we have experience, experience, experience. Okay? Experience. So thank you for attending our today's lesson, where we have analyzed the qualification requirements for both governance auditors and compliance auditors in Kenya. Bye-bye.